Change begins from within. As easy as it is to look outside of ourselves and want the world to change, the truth is, it never will if we remain the same. This podcast was created for changemakers like you who want more love and connection in your community. Today, you are going to hear stories that will inspire you and also challenge you to be the change. We are going to go deep, my friend. So take a deep breath and settle in. My name is Emilia Tamburini. Welcome to the Circle of Change. Welcome to the winter season, Changemaker. My heart is full that you are here with me at this start of a season and end of a year. Beginnings and endings. That's what my life feels like right now. How about you? We've just experienced the winter solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. And for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, you're experiencing the summer solstice, the yin and the yang of Earth, the hot and the cold, the dark and the light. Isn't it amazing how nature and this world are always bringing us back to this beautiful marriage? I like to picture both hemispheres supporting one another, holding each other with perfect synergy. For me, it helps me to be in the darkness, physical darkness, but also mental and emotional darkness in a nurturing way. Knowing that darkness is there to support me in being the light. I hope that that's supportive for you as well. As we enter into this new season at the end of 2022, I want to use this time to reflect on a theme that has been coming up a lot in conversations over the past month and that I've been experiencing as well. Failure. Did you just cringe or roll your eyes? Really, Emilia, we're going to talk about failure? That's how we're going to end the year? I know this is a touchy subject for many people. So if you did have a visceral reaction, you're not alone. The reason I want to go here is because you may be going through the process of reflecting on the year to see what this year was all about. What did it bring? What goals did you achieve or surpass? What goals fell short? If you had some goals that you didn't meet, that feeling of failure may be on your heart or your mind. Or maybe it's larger than that. Maybe you are thinking about the state of the world right now. If you happen to watch the news, it might look like we are failing, slipping behind ideals that have been birthed. Regardless of where you're at on that spectrum or how your year went, I want to touch into this topic because it's an essential part of being the change. Failure is part of growth. It's part of decolonizing. It's part of learning and adapting. It's part of our way of being as change makers. And if we have an unhealthy or uncomfortable relationship with failure, it makes the work that we're up to in the world that much harder. And I'm committed to supporting you to thrive in the work that you do in the world, whether it is parenting, driving a school bus, standing on stages, leading organizations, whatever your change-making efforts are. I hope this conversation supports you as we come to an end of 2022. In closing, for this episode, I am going to leave you with a process to help clear any feelings associated with failure so you can begin or continue to build a beautiful, empowering relationship with this construct. And hey, if you have kids, please share this episode with them. Failure is such a big topic and a contributor to mental health issues. And if we can start this work sooner than later in life, then let's do that. All right, let's settle in with a poem and get present. Center yourself wherever you happen to be in the world, whether you're sitting or walking or standing, and become aware of your breath. Your breath is this beautiful sign, this beautiful place that resides in the present moment. I invite you to pay attention to your chest or your belly rising and falling. And perhaps you want to trace the air into your body, into your lungs, and then follow it back out of your mouth and into the atmosphere. And just keep doing that, following it in and out. This moment, this beautiful present moment, this is where spirit resides, where we can tap into something greater, a wisdom to guide us when we still ourselves enough to listen. Breathe. Our poem today is by Wendell Berry, To Know the Dark. To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight. And find that the dark, too, blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. I will read that again. To know the dark. To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight. And find that the dark, too, blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. Thank you, Wendell Berry. Winter is an old Germanic word that means time of water, the season of dormancy, particularly in relation to crops. Some plants die, leaving their seeds, and others merely cease to grow until the spring. Many animals also become dormant at this time, especially those that hibernate. And lots of insects will die at this time of year. It's so uncomfortable for so many folks who have been conditioned to grow constantly. But we, as change makers, are bucking the societal norms of today and stepping into and leading others through new ways of being that truly honor our natural rhythms. This is not easy work. Just the other day, I had a really good cry about some of the weight I have felt this year, doing things in a new way, pushing the boundaries, holding myself and others to account, and not always having that met with open arms. It was a sacred circle setting that I was in, and I simply spoke my truth, what was heavy in my heart. And the tears flowed. And I gotta say, it felt so good to just be held and not fixed. This to me is the glory of sitting in well-guided circle spaces. But all that to say that I see you, I recognize that the work you're doing is not easy. And despite our strength and our resilience, we do feel the effects of stretching the limits of our society. And I honor you for doing that work. And that's why this episode is so important for me to share with you, because although I'm calling it failure, it's really talking about taking action toward things that you truly care about and what it feels like to not have that met with open arms and grace over and over, or simply to run against barriers, or just to have it fall apart in its entirety. It does weigh on us as change makers in our hearts because we care. I want to share with you a bit about this year for me to let you know some of my own ups and downs. And I'm sharing these with you in the off chance that you too have had some ups and downs and haven't taken the time to acknowledge this path that you've been on and what is truly required of you. I'm going to speak to my experience of processing the grieving that goes along with this journey of failure, in case you want to incorporate a similar ritual into your practices or into your end of year celebrations or ceremonies. Overall, I hope part of you feels seen in this conversation, just like I was seen in my circle the other day. So this year started with interesting client interactions, doing some bold community engagement work that was really supporting a project to do things in a new way that truly honored a different worldview, looking at the world through an Indigenous lens and creating a community development from that lens and bringing those stories out to community to help them come along on that journey. There were so many amazing outcomes of this work that we did, and we've created a very strong foundation. And not all of the work was necessarily supported by everybody. That is just the nature of doing things in a new way that people aren't used to, that people might be scared of. So that's how the year started. And then in the spring, I got the idea to launch the Kindness Circle. The Kindness Circle was a brand new creation, and it involved me walking into communities that were unknown to me and inviting strangers to join me in a guided circle process that would ultimately empower them in taking responsibility for bringing kindness, love, compassion, safety, and beyond into their world. These circles were met with graciousness and skepticism, fear, and gratitude. I held the space for all of that. I listened to the people at the end of this work, and so many of them asked, how do we continue these efforts? And that got my wheels turning on how can I create a longer transformational program to support people that truly want to step into the deep change-making work that does start from within. And around that same time, this opportunity arose where I was able to pitch this longer term transformational program to obtain funding and additional resources and support. That was the pitch that I spoke about a few episodes ago, and I did promise you I would report back on it. So the short of it is, I got the no. I did not advance to the semifinal round. On the heels of that event, there was another opportunity that I stepped fully into with a full heart. And I also received a no. And I'm going to unpack that experience for you later so that I can take you through the process of how I walked through the grief and the failure. And in between all of this, I've had a mixed bag of clients this year and a lot of interesting things happening and evolving in relationships. It's been challenging, not everybody has been supportive of the newer connecting, decolonizing approach that I offer. And my heart has really bore the weight of the unsupportive remarks, the rejections, the disapproving energy in the rooms that all activate my biggest fear of being abandoned. It's just been that kind of a year. Now, through one lens, I could argue that I've had many failures, many no's. These experiences didn't feel warm and fuzzy. They brought up a lot of feelings of pain and hopelessness sometimes, and other times frustration, anger, sadness, and left me feeling fairly exhausted. Why? Because I cared, because I saw the impact I could make, because I know how much this work is needed in the world. And also, it's simply because I did not take the time to process all the feels along the way. I know that you can relate to this. As a change maker, this is what you do daily in big and small ways. Maybe you have a vision for your child, or maybe it is your team, your organization, or your business. Maybe you hold a vision for your community or a partnership. You see the world can be a much more loving and full of joy place. And you, in your own special, unique way, can make an impact. And I know that you're out there taking action toward a dream. You push the boundaries. And not all people have been on board. Not all people have said yes. Not all people have lifted you up and told you what a genius you are and how much of an impact you make, right? Then not all people get it. Not all people get it. And if you're anything like me, you might do the whole spiritual bypass thing. When feelings come up of disappointment, that you go to the fridge and go get the pint of ice cream or eat the muffin or head to your uber positive, everything is a lesson and this is all for me mantra. Oh, yeah. And if we don't acknowledge and release these emotions from our body, they stay there in some way. Now, you might be saying, Amelia, I don't need this. I literally see the positive in everything. I know everything is here to serve me, and I accept that fully. And to that, I say, those aren't the dreams I'm talking about. I'm talking about things that you truly care about, the things that you wake up thinking about, the project or activity where every time you're in the woods, you're coming up with new ideas. Or maybe you're at a social gathering and all you want to do is go home and script out more content. That is the stuff I'm talking about. Those are the dreams and the visions that I know each of you are pushing forward or bringing forward in some way. I've tried the spiritual bypass in those circumstances. I've tried the super positive attitude, the meditation, the visualization. And the only thing that I have found to be effective to truly release this from my body is to go through the process of acknowledging, of feeling the feels, reframing, and then celebrating. Let me share with you an awesome example of this from my latest failure. So the latest failure came in the off season between our fall and winter season on the tails of receiving the no for the pitch. An opportunity came out of the blue to audition for a TEDx talk. A TEDx talk. Now, this has been a dream of mine for a while. Just like that, I was staring at the opportunity. Now, I'm not going to get into how this offer came about, but I can tell you that it was a gift from the universe. And it reminded me that I don't have to worry about the how. When I get clear on what I truly want, and it is in service to the world, it shows up. Now, you might remember in our last episode, I spoke about this message I kept receiving, which was, you have a message and people want to hear it in your authentic voice. Well, I can't think of a more appropriate platform than TEDx to make that happen. So I only had a week and I knew I had this message inside me that was an idea worth sharing. So I canceled the appointments that I could and I threw in my whole to this experience. I filled in the application, I wrote a script, I rehearsed in front of people, and 7 days later, I was standing on stage auditioning for a TEDx talk. I was so excited. I felt good and I was proud of what I had put together. I thought I answered the questions really well. And I even got a callback from the curator to just check on a few details. But in my mind, oh yeah, I had nailed it. 4 days later at 6 a.m., I received the email. We're sorry to inform you that your talk was not selected. Oh. Instantly, I felt that punch in my gut. And 5 seconds later, I breathed and said, it's okay. I know now is not the time, and I'm grateful for this experience. And then I went on with being super productive that day, actually celebrating myself for how evolved I was. I was like, wow, Amelia, you really processed that quickly. You're amazing. Way to go. A few hours later, I was sitting in a circle that I had called a month earlier with 2 entrepreneurial friends of mine. And we were gathered together to talk about my business and the plans for the future. That's a whole other story about how that came to be. But just to say, the idea for this circle, calling one for myself, came from one of my guests in episode 48. And I have to say, it's an amazing, amazing experience. So go back and listen to that episode if you want to check it out. So I got online. This was a few hours after I had received the news. And I looked into the faces of these 2 souls and the tears started flowing. And I let it all out. I cried, I shared my story, and I just released all the emotion that I couldn't even feel in my body before because I had packed it all down and I went into survival mode, which for me often looks like getting productive. And here and there over the next day or two, I still felt some of that sadness, but then I was able to truly move on freely. And yes, I see all the gifts and I know that I am 10 steps ahead of where I was before I put myself out there. I know I'm now connected to the right people. I know the process and I know I have time now to prepare for something that is truly magical. And there's no residual gunk in my body that may hold me back from jumping in full on in this next round. So this is the journey of processing that I've been stepping into this year. And I want to leave it for you as you bring this year to an end and maybe reflecting on some of your own failures. I always start, and I've been doing this for the last 2 years, but along with all of the new relationships I've met and all the places I got to go and all the new clients I got to work with, I also write down all the ways that I failed. Everything that I went after and didn't land well, where I got a no, where I started it and it fell apart. It could be relationships, it could be projects, it could be life experiences or clients. Whatever those were, I encourage you to write them down. Here, you're doing step 1, which is simply acknowledging the failure. Yeah. And this is where I want you to hone in. So when you're writing this list, notice, do you have any residual feelings that come up in your body? This is a sign to pause and take a moment to process these feelings. This is step 2, feel the feels. Okay. And there are so many ways that you can do this. One of my favorite ways is simply stillness, which is finding a quiet space to tap into whatever that feeling is in your body. Close your eyes and do your best to quiet your mind, that part of you that thinks this is a really bad idea. Hone in on where that discomfort is in your body. Maybe it's in your throat or your chest, or maybe it's in your belly or your back, wherever it is. You might even want to describe what that feeling is. Maybe it's got a texture or a color or a temperature. Just get really intimate with whatever that feeling is. And if this feels scary for you, just keep breathing, keep breathing. And then really what you want to do is literally bring your breath to that spot. Well, literally, I don't know if we can say that, but, imaginatively, bring your breath to that spot in your body. My very spiritual father used to guide us in this when we were kids. He'd say, breathe into your back, Emilia. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, this guy is off his rocker. And now I'm telling you, breathe into your back. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, my poor dad. I'm so sorry for all the righteous ignorance that you had to put up with. I mean, that goes for all parents out there. But the invitation is to stay here and just notice when the energy shifts. Now, the energy might not go away completely. It just might change. Maybe it changes to a different part of your body. Maybe it changes shape, size, temperature, intensity. And all we're looking for is the slight shift. And you can breathe for 5 minutes. You can breathe for an hour. Whenever you feel complete, simply send some extra love to that place where the feelings reside, and then open your eyes. Now, sitting might not be accessible to you if you're really agitated or upset. And sometimes you really need to get physical with this energy in your body. I mean, we are animals in nature. If you look at them, they actually shake out fear or that intense emotion, right? So shake your body, shake your body. Maybe putting on music will help you, but you don't have to. Or maybe you just need to write it out. Some of you are processed in that way. Maybe you need to scream, like get into a safe space and scream, or do yoga, something that physically allows you to tap into wherever that emotion is for you and let it out of your body. Or you can do what I love to do, and that is gather people together in a circle and create space for you and everyone else to share. If you have people around you that you can trust not to fix you or give you advice or question why you're doing this, then gather them around and do this work together. It is so much more powerful when you do this in group. What is heavy in your heart could be your question, and then give everybody the space to share. When you feel clean on this, when you're not carrying around the weight of this energy, the misstep, the failure, the disappointment, then you can move on to the next step, which is really about speaking to what you learned, what you gained, how this wisdom or skill will support you going forward. This is the reframe. What was the gift in this experience? Most of us want to skip right to this stage. We want to go, oh, yep, that sucks. Ooh, feel something. No, it's all good. These are the lessons I learned. And I'm really encouraging you here to take that moment in between to feel the feels and do what you need to do in your special way to shift that energy. And then the fourth step is celebrate. Celebrate the courage you had to take action in the first place that led to the failure. Celebrate the courage you had to pause and feel these feelings. Celebrate that you have a dream that you care so deeply about for the betterment of our world that you were willing to risk not being accepted and took action anyways. Celebrate that you care about feeling good, about having joy. Give yourself a high five, do a happy dance, or call a friend who will really get what you're doing and have a celebratory gathering, whatever, but really feel the celebration in your body. This is how we rewire our relationship with failure from a physiological standpoint. We acknowledge, we feel, we reframe, and we celebrate. Now, you can do this with your kids too. If they come home and they didn't succeed, they didn't get the marks, they didn't win the trophy, they didn't make the friend that they wanted to make, don't bypass those emotions. Acknowledge how they're feeling. Say how hard that is. Provide a space for them to really express these emotions. And then, and only then, move into a conversation about the gifts in the experience. I think sometimes we get so uncomfortable with the harder emotions that we move right into the, hey, yeah, but look at what you've learned. But there is a really important mid-step in there that is truly transformational and will support them in the long term. As a reminder, this isn't our first episode on failure. We did a other episode, which was 27, that spoke about what these feelings around failure really are and how we can learn to look forward to failure by seeing it through a new lens. And I think this piece on processing is a great addition to that conversation and perfect for the winter as we hibernate, we journal, we process, and we begin to see what seeds we are going to be planting for next year. You want to plant those seeds with clean energy. So this is the time to do the work and feel the feels and let those move through you. All right, Changemaker. If you love what you're hearing here, please leave us a review on Apple, on social media, or send us an email. We love hearing from you. And we welcome your financial support, which you can find out more about at humconsulting.ca/donate. I'm really looking forward to spending the winter with you, or the summer if you are our friend in the Southern Hemisphere. The guests we have on this season are incredible. And there is lots of masculine energy coming your way, which is a little bit different for this show. My hope is that you find all of these dialogues as healing as I have when I've been in conversation with these change makers. Next week, we're joined by 3 former police officers who talk to us about trauma in first responder organizations and how they are transforming the systems from the inside out with mindfulness and meditation practices. It's a powerful and eye-opening conversation, and it's a true story of what change making looks like on the ground. I know you're going to get a lot out of it. Take care over the holidays, and I will see you next week. I love you. Ciao. I'm now passing the talking piece to you. If you feel called to put your voice in the circle, please head to humconsulting.ca/podcast and share your story there. I cannot wait to hear what has come up for you as you have listened to what has been shared here today. I wish you love and joy beyond your wildest imagination. Thank you so much for being here in the Circle of Change. I also want to express my gratitude to the following peeps. Circle of Change is recorded on the ʷəŋən territories, and I am so grateful to live on this land. Our opening and closing music was created by the talented E-Roll Beats. You can find his creations at erollbeats.com. And special thanks to my coach, Mary Chan of Organized Sound Productions, for bringing this podcast to life. Until next time, ciao.